This is an Extra 330 LT. It's a lean, mean G-pulling machine. Sporting the same horsepower as a Cirrus SR22T or Cessna TTX, may production rest in peace, but weighing 1,000 pounds less, flying this beast is as simple as, if you can think it, it can do it. But this isn't an aircraft that you just board or climb into. It's one that you wear. You put it on like a tailor-made suit. And the wings, well, they just become an extension of your imagination. This rocket ship will not only paint a permanent smile on your face, but it will take you all the way to the unfortunate end of your personal limits. Let's take a look at this thing. I figured, hey, why not give a little walk-around tour of this plane since it is a bit of a rare bird. This is a 2017 Extra 330 LT, and it is one bad mamba jamba of a flying machine. To put it shortly, if you're not a fighter pilot, this is as close as you're realistically going to get to flying like a fighter pilot. It has a monster 315 horsepower naturally aspirated AEIO 580 Lycoming engine. And if we could just remove landing from the conversation, it's a piece of cake to fly. It's only ever so slightly different than its certified LX sibling. The primary difference lies with the wing design. LXs have a fully symmetrical wing with no winglets and slightly longer ailerons, and the LT, as seen here, has a very slight asymmetrical design with small winglets, so technically it does produce lift, even if that lift is virtually unmeasurable. As for the physical differences, that's really all that's worth talking about. But as a result of the modified wing, it makes the LT a bit faster than the LX, but it gives the LX a slightly faster roll rate at just over 360 degrees per second. Basically faster than you'll ever need to roll. But yes, you do need to roll. It's very important. One thing you'll notice is that there are no flaps. So clearly your takeoff and landing configuration is already done for you. Here for a shorter checklist. And given that Extras produce lift and glide only slightly better than the average brick, you'll be turning final around 100 knots and slowing to 85 over the fence. The tricky part is you won't be watching your speed because you'll be focused on staying aligned with the runway and watching those pie shapes fly by. Because once you straighten out to touchdown, your forward visibility is reduced to roughly jack squat. Now, I did say once you straighten out, which is around 5 to 10 AGL. Standard practice in this machine is to fly in a forward slip so you can keep your forward visibility as long as humanly possible. Then power out, straighten up, and keep flying and floating just above touchdown until it just won't fly anymore. If you touch down early, which I've done a time or 12, so much as inhaling and you're flying again. It's fun for the whole family. Once you're ready to climb in, or really put this plane on, I keep a couple handy rules in play to take the common sterile cockpit up just a notch. Anything loose inside the canopy is destined to become a high-speed flying projectile later on. I once had my sunglasses hanging on the front of my shirt shortly after sunset, and I rolled upside down and my sunglasses went straight to the top of the canopy. Now in a normal plane, you just reach to get whatever you dropped, but once you're strapped into the harness of this thing, you really can't move very much. And that's a good thing. Unless you're upside down and your glasses are resting on the canopy, and I'm sorry for this next line, but because I was inverted, I was sitting there flying upside down, trying to plan the perfect roll back to upright so the glasses would fall in my lap and not somewhere else like below the seat where they could jam something like a flight control. Now, since I have incredible skills, false, I rolled back upright and the shades landed perfectly back on my face. The best rule is absolutely nothing loose at all. If a passenger wants to take their phone up, I'll keep it in a zipped pouch with me, and then when they've experienced a few maneuvers and kind of learn what to expect, I'll hand it to them to take whatever picture they want and let them know, if you drop it, I'll probably kill you and maybe both of us. Speaking of passengers, the passenger sits in the front. Believe it or not, forward ground visibility while in the front is actually worse than it is in the back. But it doesn't really matter because thankfully these aren't designed to be running around on the ground. Visibility as soon as you have elevator authority or in the air is amazing. The giant bubble canopy is truly life-changing. Your visibility will rival that of a bald eagle in the hunt for its prey. But if you notice where the passenger sits, it's smack dab over the wing. So it really doesn't change your CG at all. I literally never even won weight and balance as a part of the pre-flight because it just doesn't matter in this plane. First thing you do with an extra is throw the manual away anyway. It's all legal speak and CYA language. But as for normal procedures, weight and balance, Don't even bother reading. Now, I'm not an idiot. I'm not gonna top off all 3 tanks and put me and another adult in there, because you're probably not flying this thing for max range situations anyway, which is about 2.5 hours on 58 gallons. But with 10 gallons in each wing and 15 up top in the acro tank, that's more than enough to run around till it'll be time to get somewhere stable and still on the ground. Now, I know I've mentioned a lot of numbers here, but this really isn't an aircraft you fly by the numbers. You fly by feel. For example, at being the numbers, you go to half throttle and you learn what the attitude and feel of what 100 knots looks like, and then keep that pace and attitude until final when you cut the throttle in half again. You don't pull all the throttle out until you're over the runway. Why? Because remember, this isn't a glider, it's a finely shaped brick. In fact, there's a joke in the extra community about choosing a landing spot in the event of an engine out. I'll give you a hint. It's directly beneath you. So instead of scanning the vast several square miles around you like you're used to, what you do is very quickly find your headwind, say an above average prayer, and focus on the ground that is directly beneath you, because that's where you're landing, regardless of your expert emergency handling capabilities. Again, since this glide's about the same as a brick, you'll see a glide ratio of 1.6 to 1 in the LT and about 1 to 1 in the LX. And yes, that's fully feathered. So you're not going anywhere far, regardless of how high you are. And it's a normally aspirated engine, so you aren't flying that high anyway. But fortunately, there's never been an engine out in one of these things. So that's a little bit of warm fuzzy for those with anxiety. I think just given the tiny Matchbox wheels on this thing and the paper mache brakes and fast landing speeds, anything less improved than a perfectly straight, vacant 4-lane highway that happens to miraculously be directly beneath you isn't going to do it. Trying an off-field landing in this is a good way to put you in a coma or a coffin. Now, I joke about that which deserves to be joked about, but nothing, and I mean nothing, flies like an extra. You can almost fly this plane with telepathy or by using the force if your metachlorian count is high. I recommend at least 1 fingertip, but that's all it takes. And no matter how far my skills advance, this plane will always be stronger than me and better than me. In fact, they stress test these wings to 20 Gs. 20 freaking Gs, people. You will come undone long before this plane does. And although it's certified to plus or minus 10 Gs, personally I start to gray out around a sustained 6. Which is a good thing to test when you're with your extra instructor, which is very mandatory if you plan on flying one of these. The Patty Wagstaff School in Florida specializes in these birds, so I highly recommend them. I spent a week out there with this plane and it was super valuable. All right, enough chit chat, let's go fly this thing.